Thank you for listening to this next presentation. Many of you will remember May 3rd of 2018. I'm sure you don't remember the date, but I remember us gathering at the Civic Center. There were over 200 of us there from Sonora interested in a reliever route around Sonora. And for history's sake, you'll remember over a decade ago, TxDOT did a study, had commissioned a study to be done on whether or not a safety route would be feasible and kind of what the cost would be. And if you remember, it was published in the newspaper, and eventually it simply died a death of no action. So when I ran for office, I promised people that I would pick this back up, and before that date in May, I began to talk to people about renewing an interest and taking care of what I saw as a safety issue for Sutton County, for Sonora. We were being stopped for 20 minutes to 40 minutes at two special intersections in town as a wind blade would come through or a heavy piece of equipment. And based on that, I saw there's a real need that we need to have a reliever route around the city of Sonora for 277 north and south. Now, 277 south and north are very important to Sonora. We have a lot of traffic that comes both directions to connect with I-10 or to go further north or to go further south. And based on that, I asked TxDOT to pick this back up and begin to look at this and see what we could do about recreating that feasibility study afresh. So TxDOT went out with a contract, and we had Garvers come in as a consultant group and began to do studies. Well, on May 3rd, we talked about a lot of things on that date in 2018. And I know that we've experienced a lot of things since then, including the flood that fall in 2018. And we've suffered quite a bit here. But I know that at some point, 277 is going to have a reliever route. TxDOT knows it's going to happen. The legislature is eventually going to pass the funding for it, and it may eventually become an I-27 corridor that we will live with. We know that any other place in the United States where two interstates intersect, there is prosperity. And so I'm looking down the road for future purpose, prosperity for this community, and for safety. The Sutton County Commissioners Court passed a resolution, as well as the City Council of Sonora passed a resolution in favor of doing the study. Now, I framed this as the safety route because I really think that it's necessary for the citizens of this county and this city to think and from the standpoint of what safety will mean for our citizens. Many of you have been stuck watching some of that traffic go through town that I mentioned earlier. And some of our schools are located close to the route that a lot of these trucks take, a lot of the heavy equipment takes. And we need to continue to look at it from that standpoint that is for the safety. It's not based on just the economy, it's based on the safety of what we can do for our citizens. Now, after the resolutions were passed both by the city and by the Commissioners Court, TxDOT picked this up and contracted with Garver. The next meeting we had was in July of 2018, where they came in and we had that first public meeting. We had nowhere the number of folks that we had, but we had an excellent presentation for folks to be able to look at, and I think it really garnered a lot of questions and a renewal in what we need to be doing. So we're now to the point, and we've had 3 meetings. We would have had one in March, and this would have been live at the Civic Center, except for the state got closed down because of the virus situation, the pandemic. But behind the scenes, both TxDOT and Garver have continued to work. And so the necessity of this online meeting for you to be able to look and see what's going to happen, what's been done. And so first you're going to hear from Garver, who's going to talk about the facts, circumstances that led up to our citizens selecting a particular route. And you're going to learn that it was the purple route, and that will be discussed and explained in about a 15-minute clip from Garver. Following that, though, TxDOT is going to go into much greater detail into what is going to happen next after that, from this point on. And it's going to be important for you to listen both to the facts from Garver and to the presentation from TxDOT so that you can learn what they need to know from you, what questions you have, and those things that we might be able to cover. Because we're going to come back and we're going to have another meeting and we're going to talk. This is it. This is the cost. This is where we need to go. And at that point, your local government, the city council, the commissioner's court are going to have to say yay or nay. We're in favor of this or not in favor of this. We want to go forward with this. And I think it's important that as many people listen to this presentation so that you can understand where we're getting down the road at this point. Now let me clarify what's going to happen here. You're going to have the opportunity over the next 15 days to pass comment, to ask questions, to inquire. And I've asked you since day one I've asked you to ask questions. I've told you there are not any dumb questions. If you're thinking it, someone has thought about it, and maybe there is an answer that will help you come to a decision. And coming into the decision is something that we're going to have to do. After this meeting, this virtual meeting that we're in right now, this one that TxDOT and Garver are showing us that we as citizens of this community have selected the purple route, we have a decision to make as to whether to run with that. And so I'm going to be asking the city council, and I'm also going to bring it up to the commissioner's court and ask each one of them to say, we're in favor of that purple route. We need to go forward with it. And so with that, TxDOT will begin to do a lot more engineering issues and develop cost and develop a final plan for us to look at for the future for this safety route for Sonora, for Sutton County. So please take the time to listen to this. The presentation from TxDOT will follow that of Garver. And I'm hoping that it will satisfy as well and make you enthusiastic about the need for us to do this for our community in a timely fashion. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to me. And stay with us for the next part of the presentation.
Welcome to the public meeting for the US 277 Sonora Safety Route Study. This meeting is being hosted by the Texas Department of Transportation. This is the third public meeting held for the project. The public will be able to access this slide presentation and provide comments through May 15th, 2020. This slide presents the process used to study the US 277 Sonora Safety Route. The first public meeting was held on July 18th, 2019. At that meeting, TxDOT presented the purpose of the study area, and the existing conditions and needs. TxDOT asked for input on the study area. The second public meeting was held on October 22nd, 2019. TxDOT presented the forecasted conditions, preliminary alternatives, and a Phase 1 screening matrix evaluating the preliminary alternatives. At the second meeting, TxDOT asked for input on the preliminary alternatives. Following the second public meeting, TxDOT reviewed the public comments and performed a Phase 2 screening to identify the advancing alternatives. The purpose of today's public meeting is to present the recommended alternative and to gather input from the public. The second US 277 Sonora Safety Route public meeting was held October 22nd, 2019. TxDOT presented historic traffic data and population forecasts for Sonora. Next, the preliminary alternatives were reviewed. Each alternative was described in terms of location and environmental constraints. Along with the preliminary alternatives, a Phase 1 evaluation matrix was presented to determine which of the preliminary alternatives would advance to the Phase 2 screening. Attendees were asked to fill out a comment form which included a question to indicate which alternative they preferred. A total of 64 comments were received from the second meeting. Most of the commenters indicated a preference for the purple alternative, followed by the green alternative. In general, comments included avoiding residences when selecting an alternative, as well as suggesting to keep the corridor close to Sonora. The summary of the meeting can be found on TxDOT.gov. At today's meeting, TxDOT will present the forecasted traffic data for the study and the alternatives that advance to the Phase 2 evaluation matrix. We will also review the recommended alternative and why it was chosen by TxDOT. We will also solicit your feedback on TxDOT's recommendation. The purpose and need for the US 277 Sonora safety route is to provide a safer corridor alternative and to provide improved mobility and reduce congestion through the construction of an alternative route to the existing US 277 corridor. This slide shows the four advancing alternatives. The alternatives that were advanced from the Phase 1 evaluation matrix include the green, purple, red, and teal alternatives. 3 are to the west and 1 is to the east. We will describe these starting from west to east. The green and purple alternatives are the furthest west, crossing I-10 approximately 1.25 miles west of the existing US 277 interchange. Both the green and purple alternatives tie in at the same location to the north. They both continue south, crossing behind the dam. The green alternative ties back into US 277 south of the existing industrial park, whereas the purple alternative ties in north of the Sonora Industrial Park. The next alternative, the red alternative, ties in at the north end of the same location as the green and purple alternatives. It crosses I-10 approximately 3/4 mile west of the existing US 277 interchange, near the existing overpass that ties into Loop 467 or Crockett Avenue. The red alternative ties back into US 277 to the south, just north of the Sonora Industrial Park. The teal alternative routes traffic east of downtown Sonora. It crosses I-10 approximately 1.25 mile east of the existing US 277 interchange. It ties back into US 277 to the north at approximately the same location as the 3 western alternatives and ties back into US 277 to the south near the Sonora Industrial Park.
Traffic forecasts for the study area were developed using traffic growth from TxDOT's computerized statewide traffic forecasting model and a local traffic model of Sonora developed especially for this study. Most of the traffic growth is due to population and employment growth throughout Texas, growing international trade with Mexico, and interstate commerce. The forecasts assume that a plan to upgrade the Port to Plains corridor will be adopted, which will result in added traffic in the US 277 corridor through Sonora. This map shows year 2019 average daily traffic counts at the top of each box, and year 2050 daily traffic forecasts at the bottom, assuming no relief route is built. The percentage increase between 2019 and 2050 is shown in between. This forecast establishes the no-build condition, a basis from which the relief route options will be compared. The current traffic volumes on US 277 are in the range of 2,700 to 8,600 vehicles per day in 2019 and grow to the range of 10,500 to 17,900 per day in 2050. Current traffic on I-10 grows from 12,200 to 15,000 vehicles per day in 2019 to the range of 19,700 to 22,200 per day in 2050. For each alternative, this graph shows a projected reduction in traffic on existing US 277 north of Sonora and the amount of traffic the proposed relief route is anticipated to draw from US 277 in 2050. As discussed on the previous map, traffic on this section grows 450% from 3,100 vehicles per day in 2019 to 16,600 vehicles per day in 2050. The different relief route alternatives reduce the amount of traffic on US 277 by 92% for the green and purple alternative, 75% for the red alternative, and 70% for the teal alternative. Traffic reductions vary by alternative due to trips that travel to and from different local destinations in and around Sonora, as opposed to those that travel all the way through, Some alternatives provide more direct access to most of these destinations, while others, like the Teal alternative, pass too far from these destinations and thus will not draw as much traffic from existing US 277. Similarly, on this slide for each alternative, this graph shows the projected reduction in traffic on existing US 277 south of Sonora and the amount of traffic the proposed relief route is anticipated to draw from US 277 in 2050. Traffic on this section grows 287% from 2,700 vehicles per day in 2019 to 10,500 vehicles per day in 2050. The different relief route alternatives remove the amount of traffic on US 277 by 85% for the green and purple alternative, 84% for the red alternative, and 81% for the teal alternative. Like US 277 North, traffic reductions on US 277 South were due to trips that were traveling to and from different local destinations in and around Sonora. Some alternatives provide more direct access to most of these destinations, while others, like the teal alternative, pass too far from these destinations and thus would not draw as much traffic from US 277. This map presents the travel time and time savings of the four advancing relief route alternatives. The existing route of US 277 is about 10 miles long within the relief route study area, and existing travel times range from 12 to 16 minutes, averaging 14 minutes. The relief route alternatives reduce study area travel time to the range of 7 to 8.5 minutes and save 5.5 to 7 minutes relative to the current average of 14 minutes. All three west side alternatives have similar travel time ranging from 7 to 7.5 minutes. The longer east side teal alternative takes 8.5 minutes. The reduction in crashes due to the relief route was estimated relative to no build using a combination of current crash rates and TxDOT average rates for highways similar to the relief route configuration. Crash rates for current roads around Sonora were computed using crash records representing the 5-year period from 2014 to 2018. Because the relief route will have lower crash rates than current roadways within Sonora, the movement of traffic from city streets to the relief route results in a net overall reduction in crashes. Under the no build in 2050, crashes would be estimated at 66 crashes per year, while under the for build alternatives, crashes would be reduced by 17 to 23 crashes to a total of 43 to 49 crashes per year in the study area, with the green and purple alternatives having the most reduction in estimated crashes. Note that these reductions are based on current crash experience and known crash experience on roadways similar to the planned relief route. Crash rates could change in the future due to unforeseen trends in vehicle safety technology and other factors. The traffic effects of the relief route were measured by comparing the no-build alternative to the worst-case alternative for the relief route, which is the red alternative. The other relief route alternatives result in similar traffic benefits. Traffic performance is measured using a rating scale called the level of service. Similar to grading scales in school, level of service ranges from A to F, with A being the best quality of traffic flow and F being the worst. In rural areas, level of service should be C or better, while in urban areas, D or better is acceptable. Level of service is used to rate the traffic performance of different roadway configurations, including freeways, freeway interchanges, two-lane highways, intersections controlled by traffic lights or stop signs, and urban streets. The above map illustrates estimated year 2050 level of service under the no-build alternative. Results show that intersections with traffic lights along US 277 operate at level service B or C, and the interchange of US 277 at I-10 operates at level service D. The two-lane highways of US 277 north and south of Sonora also deteriorate to level service D under the heavier traffic in the future. These results indicate that, even without the relief route, improvements will be needed to address future traffic in the corridor. Recall that all of these roadway configurations operated at level service A or B under year 2019 traffic. This map illustrates the year 2050 level of service results under the red alternative, illustrated by the dotted line through the West Loop 467 interchange at I-10. The results show that most urban streets, intersections, I-10 freeway segments, and interchanges all operate at level of service A or B when the relief route is added. Under the red alternative, it will connect with I-10 via an expansion of the West Loop 467 interchange at exit 399. Even with the added traffic from the red alternative, this interchange functions at level of service C. The other three relief route alternatives result in construction of new interchanges along I-10, and all of these would operate at level service A or B. Level service results along Loop 467 and US 277 would be the same under the other three alternatives. Segments of all four relief route alternatives would function at level service A or B in 2050, either as a 4-lane divided highway or as a 4-lane freeway.
So as you can see here, this is where we compared each of the alternatives. This is the Phase 2 evaluation matrix. This is where we compared such things as safety, mobility, cost, environmental constraints, and stakeholder involvement. So as you can see, under safety, the purple alternative has the highest reduction in crashes of all of the alternatives. Under mobility, the purple alternative again tied for second highest in travel time savings and has one of the least amount of impact on local connectivity and access. The purple alternative also has the lowest estimated cost. Under environmental, the purple alternative had either the least or second least amount of impacts depending on the category. And then lastly, under stakeholder involvement, out of all of the feedback received, the stakeholders indicated a preference for the purple alternative, the most of all of the other alternatives. Therefore, TxDOT is recommending the purple alternative as the recommended alternative. The purple alternative has the highest crash reduction, some of the least environmental impacts, the lowest cost, and the highest level of stakeholder support. Therefore, it is recommended that this alternative be advanced for further study. So now we would like to hear from you. If anyone would like to submit a comment, you may do so via letter, email, or online. You may also call during regular office hours at 325-947-9247 or email project staff to ask any questions about the project during the comment period. The comment form may be found at the website below, and please note that these comments shall be submitted between April 30th and May 15th. Just as a reminder that the comments for this public meeting number 3 should be submitted during the public comment period between April 30th and May 15th. After this public comment period, TxDOT will evaluate any comments received, then finalize the technical reports and complete this feasibility study. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing from you.
I am Randy Shields, the Advanced Planning Engineer with the San Angelo District of TxDOT, and I wanted to take the time to thank you all for watching the virtual public meeting that you just completed. I'm sorry that we couldn't do this in person as we had scheduled about a month ago, but I'm thankful that we have continued to work on this and that we're moving forward and that we have the opportunity to present this information to you. Over the last few weeks, I've gotten many phone calls and some questions asked about what the status was, so I know that this is high on many of your priority list and that you want to see things moving forward and get completed. So to kind of wrap up what you just watched, Garver has narrowed down from the many alternatives we had at the beginning to the purple route. That is going to be the preferred alternative. From that, they are going to complete the technical report and the final feasibility study and turn it back into TxDOT. In the meantime, the next steps for you guys is that we do have this comment period until May 15th of 2020. You guys have been exemplary about turning in your comment forms and reaching out to TxDOT and really letting us know how you feel about the feasibility study and the options that have been going forward. And I anticipate that that will continue. I look forward to hearing from you guys. The ways you can turn those comments in are kind of the same as they always were. You can send them to me through email, you can do it online, or you can send it in the mail. Outside of that, though, if you have questions that aren't necessarily public comment, but you want some more detail or for things to be elaborated on a little bit, feel free to call me during my office hours. The number's posted on the website, or to send me an email, and I'll be happy to get back in touch with you and kind of walk you through the process and what we've come through so far. So the next steps for us is this is the final public meeting for the feasibility stage of this project, but there's still a lot of work to be done. As Judge Smith mentioned, the citizens of Sonora and Sutton County will have to come together and pass another resolution asking TxDOT to continue on and to take the next step in the development of the safety route. Some of that will look like, right now we've narrowed this purple route down to about 1,000 feet swath of land that traverses through along the west side of town. The next phase of this study will narrow that down within that 1,000 feet and kind of give you more of an understanding of the footprint and what the actual facility will look like. There is no set timeline for the delivery of this, but I know that you guys here in Sutton County and in Sonora will be active and make sure that this continues to get pushed forward, and let us know if you support it or if you don't. So I look forward to reading all of your public comments and hearing from you on the phone. If you have any questions, like I mentioned before, please feel free to call me. And on behalf of myself and John DeWitt, who many of you have gotten to know over the last few years as well, we want to thank you for your patience and for your participation.